Hi, I'm Sean Gannon, and this is Minute Math, and today we're learning about multiplying binomials. We're going to find each product. So, if I was given this product. Minute Math, when you need help you use Minute Math. 3n plus 2 times n plus 3. All right. So when I multiply this out, I want to take all parts of my first parenthesis and multiply it by all parts of my second parenthesis. So 3n times n is a 3n squared. 3n times 3 is a 9n. Remember, 3 times 3 is 9. 2 times n plus is 2n. And 2 times 3 is a 6. Now we just have to combine our like terms. The only ones I see are 9n and 2n. So 3n squared comes down, plus 9n plus 2n is 11n. Bring down the 6 as well, and there we have our final answer, 3n squared plus 11n plus 6. n minus 1 times 2n minus 2. We want to take all parts of our first parenthesis and multiply it by all parts of our second parenthesis. So n times a 2n is a 2n squared. N times a minus 2 is a minus 2n. A minus 1 times 2n is a minus 2n. And a minus 1 times a minus 2, a negative times a negative is a positive 2. Now we want to combine our like terms, which are just the ones with the n's. Minus 2n, minus 2n. 2n squared comes down. A minus 2n minus a 2n, be careful, is a minus a 4n. You almost can see it like this, plus a negative, plus a negative. They mean the same thing. And then we add another 2, or bring that 2 down, and there we have our final answer, 2n squared minus 4n plus 2. 2x plus 3 multiplied by 2x minus 3. We want to take all parts of our first parenthesis and multiply it by all parts of our second parenthesis. So 2x times 2x is a 4x squared. A 2x times a minus 3 is a minus 6x. 3 times 2x is a positive 6x. And a 3 times a minus 3 is a minus a 9. Now let's combine our like terms and simplify. A minus 6x and a positive 6x cancel each other out, which is a 0, which we don't need to write. So we just bring down the rest. 4x squared minus 9 is our final answer. R plus 1 times r minus 3. We want to take all parts of our first parenthesis and multiply it by all parts of our second parenthesis. So r times r is an r squared. R times a minus 3 is a minus 3r. 1 times an r is r. And 1 times a minus 3 is a minus 3. Now we want to combine our like terms, which is just the ones in the middle, the r's. So the r squared comes down, and a minus 3r plus 1r is a minus 2r. Bring down the minus 3, and our final answer is r squared minus 2r minus 3. 2n plus 3 multiplied by 2n plus 1. All right. So I want to take all parts of my first parenthesis and multiply it by all parts of our second parenthesis. So 2n times 2n becomes a 4n squared. 2n times 1 is a 2n. A 3 times a 2n is a 6n, and a 3 times a 1 is a 3. We now want to combine our like terms. 2n and 6n are the only like terms here. So we bring down the 4n squared, and 2n plus 6n is an 8n. And we bring down the plus 3 to get our final answer of 4n squared plus 8n plus 3. 3p minus 3 times a p minus 1. We want to take all parts of our first parenthesis and multiply it by all parts of our second parenthesis. So 3p gets multiplied by p, which is a 3p squared. 3p then gets multiplied by a minus 1, which makes a minus 3p. A minus 3 now gets multiplied by a p, which is a minus 3p again. And a minus 3 times a minus 1 is a positive 3. Remember, a negative times a negative is a positive. So now we got to combine our like terms and simplify. I find it's easier to convert this minus a 3p to be plus a negative. So we plus a negative 3p and plus a negative 3p. This 3p squared comes down, and a minus 3p plus a minus 3p is a minus 6p. And we bring down the plus 3, and so now our final answer is 3p squared minus 6p plus 3. 3p plus 3 multiplied by 3p plus 2. We want to take all parts of our first parenthesis and multiply by all parts of our second parenthesis. So 3p times 3p becomes a 9p squared. 3 times 3 is 9, and p times p is p squared. 3p times a 2 is a 6p. 3 times 3p is a 9p. And 3 times a 2, for the last part, is a 6. We want to combine our like terms, which is the 6p and the 9p. 9p squared comes down, and 6p plus a 9p is a 15p. And then we bring down the plus 6, and so our final answer is 9p squared plus 15p plus 6. K minus 2 times a k minus 3. We want to take all parts of our first parenthesis and multiply it by all parts of our second parenthesis. So k times k is a k squared. K times a minus 3 is a minus 3k. A minus 2 times a minus k, minus 2 times a positive k is a minus 2k. And lastly, a minus 2 times a minus 3 is a positive 6. Negative times a negative is a positive. We want to combine our like terms here, and the only variable that's the same is the k. The terms with k are the same. So we bring down the k squared, and a minus 3k minus 2k is a minus 5k. We bring down the plus 6, and our final answer is k squared minus 5k plus 6. V minus 1 times 3v minus 3. We want to take all parts of our first parenthesis and multiply by all parts of our second parenthesis. So v times a 3v is a 3v squared. V times a minus 3 is a minus 3v. A minus 1 times 3v is a minus 3v. And a minus 1 times a minus 3 is a positive 3. Remember, negative times a negative is positive. So we now want to combine our like terms, which are our minus 3v and minus 3v. So bring down the 3v squared here, and a minus 3v minus a 3v is a minus a 6v. Bring down the plus 3, And our final answer is 3v squared minus 6v plus 3. 2x minus 3 times a 3x plus 3. We want to take all parts of our first parenthesis and multiply by all parts of our second parenthesis. So we take the 2x and multiply it by the 3x. 2x times 3x is a 6x squared. 2x now times 3 is just a 6x. A minus 3 times a positive 3x is a minus 9x. And a minus 3 times a positive 3 is a minus 9. We now want to combine our like terms to get our final answer. 6x squared has no other like terms, so it's 6x squared. 6x minus a 9x is a minus 3x. Bring down the minus 9, and our final answer is 6x squared minus 3x minus 9. 4n plus a 4 multiplied by 5n minus an 8. We want to take all parts of our first parenthesis and multiply by all parts of our second parenthesis. So 4n times 5n is a 20n squared. Okay, almost forgot that. 20n squared, right? 4 times 5 is 20. N times n is n squared. 4n times a minus 8. So 4n times minus 8 is a negative. That's a 32n. 4 times 5n is a 20n. And 4 times a minus 8 is a minus 32. We now want to combine our like terms, which is the minus 32n and the 20n. 20n squared comes down, and a minus 32n plus 20n is a minus 12n, and we bring down the minus 32, and our final answer is 20n squared minus 12n minus 32. 5x minus 2 times a 5x minus 8. We want to take all parts of our first parenthesis and multiply by all parts of our second parenthesis. So 5x times 5x is a 25. Excuse me, getting ahead of myself there. 5 times 5 is 25, and x times x is an x squared. 5x times a minus 8, though, is a minus 40x. A minus 2 times a 5x is a minus 10x. And a minus 2 times a minus 8 is a positive, right? Negative times a negative is a positive 16. We now want to combine our like terms. A minus 40x and minus 10x are our like terms. And so we bring down everything else. 25x squared minus 40x minus 10x is a minus a 50x. Bring down the plus 16, and there we have our final answer, 25x squared minus 50x plus 16. 6x plus 2 times 2x plus 8. We want to take all parts of our first parenthesis and multiply by all parts of our second parenthesis. So 6x times a 2x is a 12x squared. 6x times an 8 is a 48x. A 2 times a 2x is a 4x, and a 2 times an 8 is a 16. We now want to combine our like terms, which is just the 48x and the 4x. Bring down the 12x squared. 48x plus 4x is a 52x, and we add a 16, and there we have our final answer, 12x squared plus 52x plus 16. 3x plus 3 multiplied by x plus 4. Well, we first want to take all parts of our first parenthesis and multiply it by all parts of our second parenthesis. So, 3x times x is a 3x squared. 3x times a 4 is a 12x. A 3 times an x is 3x. And 3 times a 4 is a 12. So now we want to combine our like terms, which is just the 12x and the 3x. 3x squared comes down, and 12x plus 3x is a 15x. Bring down the 12, and our final answer, 3x squared plus 15x plus 12. 5v plus a 4 multiplied by 3v minus a 6. Well, we first want to take all parts of our first parenthesis and multiply by all parts of our second parenthesis. So 5v times a 3v is a 15v squared. 5v now times a minus 6 is a minus 30v. 4 times 3v is a 12v. And 4 times a minus 6 is a minus 24. We now want to combine our like terms, which is just the ones with a v. We bring down a 15v squared, and a minus 30v plus a 12v is a minus 18v. Bring down the minus 24, and our final answer, 15v squared minus 18v minus 24. X minus 4 multiplied by x minus a 7. I want to take all parts of our first parenthesis and multiply by all parts of our second parenthesis. So, x times x is an x squared. X times a minus 7 is a minus 7x. Minus 4 times x is a minus 4x. And a minus 4 times a minus 7, a negative times a negative is a positive, and 4 times 7 is 28. We want to now combine our like terms, which is just the minus 7x and minus 4x. X squared comes down, minus 7x minus 4x is minus 11x. Bring down the plus 28, and our final answer is here, x squared minus 11x plus 28. 5x plus 6 multiplied by an 8x minus 4. We want to take all parts of our first parenthesis and multiply by all parts of our second parenthesis. So, 5x times an 8x is a 40x squared. 5x now multiplied by a minus 4 is a minus 20x. 6 times 8x is a 48x. And 6 times a minus 4 is a minus 24. We now want to combine our like terms, which is just the minus 20x and plus 48x. Bring down the 40x squared, and minus 20x plus 48x is a plus a 28x. Bring down the minus 24, and our final answer here is 40x squared plus 28x minus 24. 8b minus 1 times a 5b minus 5. We want to take all parts of our first parenthesis and multiply by all parts of our second parenthesis. So, 8b times a 5b is a 40b. 8b times a minus 40b squared, excuse me, almost forgot that. 8b times a minus 5 is a minus 40b. Minus 1 times a 5b is a minus 5b. And minus 1 times a minus 5 is a positive 5. Remember, negative times the negative is a positive. So now we want to combine our like terms, which is just the b's in the middle. 40b squared comes down, and minus 40b minus 5 is a minus 45b. 5 comes down, and our final answer is 40b squared minus 45b plus 5.
Minute math, when you need help you use minute math. Minute math, when you need help you use minute math. MinuteMathTutor.com